Welcome. Today I'm going to be discussing something that has popped up more and more on my radar from time to time. A subject from the Great White North. It's usually known as an acronym, which is, the acronym is LAD or LADD, depending on who's referring to it. It's the brainchild of IC, or Industry Canada, which the idea come about as a set of common frequencies for use on logging and resource roads and stuff, which they have a lot of up in some areas of the country up there. And a set of common frequencies across the VHF band, the standard, what we down in the US consider standard LMR frequencies from 150 to 170 whatever megahertz. And how do I say this here? Industry Canada, I think, opened up a Pandora's box, for which they did not intend, because the potential user base was a slightly bit larger than they originally intended. Theirs originally set up the common frequencies for use in the resource roads and other general trucking frequencies, trucking activity frequencies, stuff, but their use is kind of spreading far past that and far larger geographical area than they originally intended. And with that larger geographical use is using them in areas where they did not intend certain frequencies to be used. And a lot of people using them for activities which I see never really thought of in the first place, like four-wheelers using them, and truck drivers, and all other different groups of the population, and different companies and stuff using them for a lot broader set of applications than just the trucking resource road communications for which it was originally intended. And with that is coming the widespread unlicensed use of them, people using them for which they have not paid their licensing fees for, and using modified ham radios on those frequencies and a lot of other frequencies which did not even, or does not even fall underneath the LAD umbrella of LAD frequencies. And with all those frequencies they're operating on and stuff, the unlocked ham radios is the reason. Let's see, I'll spit this out straight. The reason for the use of the unlocked ham radios is so that the truck drivers and other users can go amongst all those different frequencies with agility and not having to go and having them reprogrammed every time they come across the new frequency they need to operate on. And all that has generally led to a slight mayhem. As they say, LADD1, LAD1 is turned into the Channel 19 of the Canadian trucking industry. And with all the other people hopping onto the LAD frequencies and stuff, it's gotten to the point that IC has no hope in trying to control its usage anymore. So oddly enough, the same stuff that happened down in the United States with the 27 megahertz CB band is almost been recreated infinitum up north by IC, except this time in the VHF band with a lot wider, less disorganized set of frequencies. So that's one thing that I see leading basically to a slightly wider disorganized modern VHF version of CB. It's basically forming up in Canada right now. And with the way CB formed, the original 27 megahertz CB formed down in the United States during the 60s and 70s and slowly spread up to Canada, where Canada basically had to accept the usage and validate it and make it legal. Same thing I see, basically the same thing I see happening with the VHF LAD frequencies up north and the way the use of them is spreading. Sooner or later it's going to spread down to the United States. It's already happening to a degree. A lot of people along the Canadian border in the United States hear Canadian truckers traveling south of the border still talking on LAD frequencies, and sooner or later US truckers are going to catch up and get caught up in the idea of their use, and the usage of those frequencies will spread south of the border into the United States. So sooner or later I see that a situation where the FCC is going to have to validate its usage and make provisions for the orderly usage of a set of VHF frequencies, and basically a modern equivalent of VHF CB, like the Canada had to do when the 27 megahertz CB got started down in the US, because most of the other communications crazes have spread from the US up north into Canada. But this is one of the odd times where I see something that started in Canada that is sooner or later going to spread down to the United States. We can talk about it like with some people on Radio Reference and other places that are having long drawn out arguments whether they want to even recognize the fact that the LAD channels are being used over a wider area than what I see originally intended or what's legal. And are having discussions about if we recognize the usage, then we're promoting its usage or whatever. They can sit there and have arguments about back and forth about it all day long if they want, but it ain't going to change the fact of the usage and how it's spreading. And sooner or later it's going to spread to the point where basically, as in the US, we're going to have to recognize it too. The FCC is going to. So that is a long-term thing that I see coming. Basically what we're for a future be basically the organization of a VHF CB in the United States, originating from Canada for the most part, and finding fertile ground among the trucking community here, which has pretty much gave up on 27 megahertz CB usage because of all its problems. We'll find the VHF alternative a lot more to the liking, so to speak. And that's the reason I think it's going to find fertile ground here in the United States and take off to the point that the FCC basically has to recognize its existence and stuff. So that's my opinion on that subject. Take care.